Nobody can touch me because I would get blacklisted for that.
The persona in the front that we put forward into the universe.
You'd be standing and
Hi, I'm Gabby. Because I will miss that aspect.
something else. Yeah. Like, bitch, we're friends. don't address me like that.
You're people, you're not creatures. I'm so sorry. I don't care if you hate me.
No. Tissue paper.
I dated a lot of Sagittarius men, and that just was not working.
Girls love her, boys love her.
And those connections and ideas change.
And if we want to legalize marijuana or not, I don't know.
75% of podcasts don't make it past the first year.
Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Z-List Celebrities. It is a new month. We started last week with an episode with Kelsey talking about Bama Rush since we are in full swing of back to school and, all Rush things. And Bama Rush is just all over TikTok right now for all of us. So I figured, why not talk about it again? I know we had originally said in Kelsey's episode that Tamika, who has a 10 years difference with Kelsey at Bama Rush, was going to come on. Unfortunately, she was not able to make it on this time, and I wanted to still get you guys some sorority tea. So who better than the lovely Jordan, who is virtually, this is our first virtual episode, so we're giving this a test run. Nobody better to test it with than Jordan. Jordan, go ahead and introduce yourself. Let them know your relationship to me and tell them about your upbringing, where you came from, all that fun jazz.
I tried to rob Gabby in an alleyway, and instead I thought I'd be her friend. I'm Jordan. I know this is our first. It's the first time I'm doing the podcast. It's weird.
It is. And it's so funny. People don't realize I have another Jordan.
I know.
It's kind of a different.
Make no mistake, I was first. Make no mistake.
Oh, shit. Jordan's going to throw hands with Jordan.
No, I love Jordan, though. She's great. So I'm Jordan, as you've heard. I'm from Tampa. That's where I met Gabby when she moved there. Gosh, it's been like 5 years now. That's
6.
Crazy. 6. Wow.
6 years.
Oh. 6 years. We met in Tampa. We literally just met to do like a photo shoot, and then we never stopped doing photo shoots. So here we are.
And now all we do are photo shoots.
Now
we do photo shoots together. Now we do it for other people together.
Together we do photo shoots, and we do all of the things. I am a photographer based in New York City. I'd show you, but my windows are dirty. And I've been here for 4 years, so I know Gabby terribly misses me, but things are busy and booked and busy up here in New York. So I focus on portrait, fashion photography, and and then besides that, we're traveling. We're going to see Taylor Swift all around the world. We are.
Tell them about where we're going to see Taylor.
Oh, man. Well, Sweden is on the horizon. Why did we do... I think Sweden just, like, Stockholm happened to just be the one that was... Like,
honestly, I've been wanting to go to Sweden for a really long time anyways. So, I was not upset about that choice.
It was a good date. We signed up. That's when I got approved for. And then the tickets, they're they're not that bad because we got them first round. So
yeah.
I'm actually interested
I just feel like... Well, and I feel like personally for us... We've been to, the other options. So, I didn't want to go to London again. I've been a billion times. I didn't want to do Spain again. We just did France last. We were in France last September, which we're coming up on the year anniversary of that. And it's kind of ironic because, not to spill the tea already, but September is travel month. I will be doing travel month for our final month before I take a break for October. And I'm thinking we might have to rip out the Paris story. So, Jordan might be back on for September.
We have just a few good tales. The tales.
So we just have so many Europe trips we've already done that I just feel like it makes more sense to do one we hadn't done. And Sweden was just easy. I was just like, that's easy sell. Our good friends Britt and Anton her husband Anton is from Sweden, so she's already sent me a billion recs of places to stay, things to do. So I'll probably do the concert in like Stockholm for a night or two, and then we'll go explore all the rest of Sweden. It'll be fantastic. I wanted to stay in one country and not try and bounce countries this time because we always try that, and I just like felt like I need like all focus on one place. So Sweden was a great one to do that for.
Yeah, like it's like so fun when we go and see as many as possible because you're over there already, but it's exhausting. Like the packing up of the suitcase in like 7 different Airbnbs gets old. But it's like you come back and you're like, wow, we saw so much, which is good. But then it's like, okay, well, next time we go to a trip, let's just see a place and like take
There's
it a
just
little
nothing
easier.
like watching. Well, there's just nothing like watching little tiny. So for reference, guys, Jordan is what? You're like 5 foot, if even. Are you 4'9"?
4'11".
4'11". This woman's 4'11". So, in guy world, that means she's actually like 4'10". But she
If I was a man,
has
I'd
the
be
suitcase
probably
that's like the size of her. Well, her suitcase is literally the size of her. So for me, it's just funny. Like I can visualize every time we go on these trips, she's just like lugging these up cobblestones and like stairs. And I'm just like,
I do it every time
can't
too.
do
I
it.
don't learn. Like I don't learn not to bring the giant bag.
Well, and for those that tuned in to a vlog that I posted 2 weeks ago, it would be the one where I debunk and like talk about the psychic experience I had recently. One thing she did say is when we head into Portugal that I need to pack light. And I went, probably won't do that.
If only she
She
knew.
also she also recommended that I get a backpack on wheels. And I looked at her and I was like, and in my head I went, isn't that just a suitcase? Like
Suitcase?
that essentially is what a suitcase is.
Suitcase?
So, anyways, we've got Sweden, we've got all these fun things on the horizon. We're only able to do that because we take care of ourselves and financially support ourselves because we got an education, which is what this month's about, education.
Facts. Facts.
So
College
the
world.
first half of this month is very much so like talking about the fun aspects of college and the fun education side. We are getting into later this month more like educational things with some other guests. But for you, I wanted, since Tamika was not able to make it, I wanted to compare rush experiences between a school like Bama and a school like UT, where it's not as big of a Greek life, I feel. And I'm going to kind of have you debunk all that, but let everybody know, what sorority were you in?
Yeah. It was a Delta Gamma.
Delta Gamma. And what
Delta
year were
Gamma
you
for
in Delta Gamma?
life. 2010.
2010.
2010
Okay. So
to 2014.
definitely it
So,
was more still so like Facebook versus Instagram in
oh
2010, I
yes,
feel like.
all Facebook.
Like different kind of vibe on social medias than Kelsey kind of expressed for herself. So I feel like there'll be some good comparisons there. Was UT really big on Greek life?
So it is. It's big on Greek life, but it's still a small school. I mean, it's bigger now, but when I was there, I think I think the entire school was around 6,000 students.
Oh
So
wow.
like a good size, but small. So Greek life was really one of like the main things to do when you get there to like make friends and to join in. So they do take Greek life like pretty seriously. It definitely has like the support of the school. Like UT is always like great at helping us or helping Greek life put on whatever events. Using the facilities, using the school, using the rooms. Because the one fun fact about UT is because it's small, there's no houses, but also Tampa and Hillsborough County has that old law that if you have more than like 6 women living in a house, then it's considered a brothel. So
So that's so funny actually
houses
because
aren't
I went to
allowed
school in
there.
Arizona. Well, so I went to school in Arizona and University of Arizona in Tucson, we had huge houses, lots of girls, everything like that. But if you drive up to Scottsdale, which is ASU, they had the brothel. So it was
Mhm.
definitely by county for us in Arizona, but they had that same rule. And it was so funny, like going to a school where like it did not matter. And then you'd go up to Scottsdale and like they weren't allowed to do that. So
Yeah.
it's funny to hear that they have that in other states. Clearly, they do not have that in Alabama. Also, I had to Google just as a little comparison for your 6,000 at your school in the year 2017, Alabama was 38,000.
Wow. Yeah, that's.
So quite a difference.
I don't even
So
know
it probably
how.
makes
Like, I wouldn't know how to handle that many people. That's so many people.
my school was pretty similar to that. It just feels like, I don't know, like you don't cross paths with everybody. Like that's just
Right.
that. Like I feel
Yeah.
like it doesn't feel like when I see that number 38,000, I never felt like I was surrounded by 38,000 friends and
Yeah. Yeah.
schoolmates. Like it didn't feel that way, but we were definitely more of like an open campus where I feel like UT is a little bit more clustered together.
Yeah.
Um, how do you feel like having a smaller school made your Greek life experience maybe than that of somebody who's going through Bama Rush right now?
So that like you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like when the school is big, you're not crossing paths with probably I don't even know what percentage. Like so few people. Whereas when the school is small, you are crossing paths with everybody, and like it felt. I went to a small all girl Catholic high school, so I was very used to like a small amount of people and like more of the like personalized attention that you just get on a small campus. So you definitely see that more at UT. Like you're gonna see the same people wandering around, and then especially when it came to recruitment, like you're seeing the same girls, you're noticing people, you're definitely recognizing girls' faces quickly. When I was there, there was only 4 sororities. So literally that was all you had to choose from. There was about I'd say like 75 to 100 something girls in each, which is a lot. Like still a good
Yeah, that's a lot.
size. Because it's like the school is smaller, so when there are things that people are interested in, they want everyone to participate. So like we didn't have to worry about the house aspect or really like any location based numbers. So it was kind of just like the more the merrier. Like we'll be as big of a chapter as we can be based on interests. Like if people want to join, then like let them join. So yeah, we still had like over 100 girls. I think by the time I graduated, there was like almost 150 in Delta Gamma, and then the others were all pretty comparable. But as like I went through, like I remembered the I think that we called them our Pi Chi groups. They were like the little group that you stayed with during recruitment that you would go to the different sorority houses with. Like that was our little cluster of
So we
girls.
called those our just rush groups. Those were just
Mhm.
rush groups to us.
Yeah, and
So
then the
what was your
leaders were like,
motivation though?
oh, I
Sorry,
didn't even
I
hear you.
totally talked over you.
Totally didn't hear
No,
you say
it's
that.
different. We're getting used to this whole like distance thing, so I'm adjusting. But no, I was just going to ask what was then the motivation if somewhere like Alabama, Kelsey talked about how like she felt like she had to rush. Like she started seeing all these girls like being like, "Oh my God, recruitment, recruitment." So she just assumed I have to rush. What was the
Yeah.
motivation then to rush for you if you don't have to rush because the majority of the school isn't?
Honestly, for me, it was a like a preconceived thing. Like I had already known going into college that I wanted to be in Greek life, and then so like because UT had Greek life, I was interested before I even started. So then as soon as I got there, I like immediately just found out the information and wanted to rush. And then, I mean, it was similar though. Like once there's the same kind of buzz. Like so once it starts, like you want to be a part of it. So there's a lot of girls that do join like at the last minute because it feels the same like, oh, everybody's rushing, like I want to be a part of that. So there's still that buzz, but I just already knew I wanted to do Greek life, and so it was like a no-brainer.
So then what was your first exposure to Greek life? Do you have like, I think Kelsey and I might have touched on it last week, but basically, for me, like I was a legacy of a sorority through an aunt, and then I knew that like Greek life was huge in U of A, so that's why I did it. For Kelsey, she knew nothing about it. She wasn't a legacy. She didn't know what she was walking into. She only knew because a week before Greek life, like that she needed to sign up and do that. So for you, if you already knew going into college, no matter where you went, you wanted to be in Greek life, did you have some kind of exposure to it?
Honestly, like, I think the television of like the early 2000s and like movies like painted Greek life as such a like fun and exciting part of college. And my mom's cousins were in a sorority at FSU. I cannot remember which one she was in, but so like they're like my mom had stories she wasn't in Greek life, but she was like, when I used to go visit my cousin at FSU, like we'd stay in the sorority house, and that was really fun. Fun fact, which we could probably do another episode. My mom's cousin, was at FSU very similar time to when Ted Bundy was
Perfect. I've been
happening.
popularly requested to bring back true crime and conspiracy theories. It was our most watched season. Between, it's so random. This is going to just blow your mind. Between conspiracy theories and true crime and weddings, those are our two most popular seasons. So I
Oh,
was like, I guess I have
I
to bring the
believe it.
wedding seasons back and true
Yeah.
crime. So I definitely, that's something we should definitely talk about because I feel like I know quite a few people that were there around that time. And I think it's just us being like our families being from Florida. Naturally, so many people went there. So it just like, that was their era. That was our like our parents' era of people. So
Yep.
I feel like there's lots of connections with that. A very close personal friend of ours, cousin, was one of the women murdered at the strip club down the street in Tampa. I got lots of like true crime connection stories, so we'll definitely have to bring that back. But do tell me, which sorority movie was it that sent you into like I need to be a sorority girl? Because like for me it was House Bunny. I was like, no,
I
I'm
was
gonna be in a sorority.
I was you would have thought, but Legally Blonde.
Legally
Also,
Blonde. Okay, that did it
Legally
for you.
Blonde is based on Delta Gamma. So like the
I did not know that.
what are they? I can't think of it.
I
Whatever
can't
they are
remember
in
either,
Legally
but
Blonde, is based like I mean it's based on Greek life, but the girls
yeah.
that worked on the movie that helped with the sorority were Delta Gammas.
Okay, interesting. Well,
Yeah.
walk us through the process on your Rush experience. Like, what was Rush like for you guys? Was it, because I know Kelsey and I talked a lot about how it really beat us down mentally. It was very strenuous. Was yours a little bit more relaxed because you guys were a smaller school, or did it look pretty similar to like what people see online now through Bama Rush?
No, it was definitely not like that. Like it was not stressful. I mean, I'm sure it was for some people, like more so just like socially, like if you struggled with being that vulnerable socially with like a bunch of girls that you've never met, that was the hard part. But like UT's recruitment, so we're not allowed to call it Rush, recruitment only. Um,
Oh, okay.
recruitment was, I know we were, I don't know, it was like they were trying to avoid the like all like I mean when we were in school hazing was massive. Like it was
We're
bad
going to touch
bad.
on that. So
Yeah.
save those
So
stories because
yeah.
I want to touch on that.
But so like the word rush was like not allowed because it was like personified with that. But no, it was not that stressful. I remember some of the things that were still the same for other girls that I knew from high school that went to bigger schools like Bama, FSU, Florida, all that. The like main concern was the outfits. Like, what the heck am I gonna wear on these days? And it was like wild. And I've always been like into fashion and clothes. So like I was like, I have plenty to wear. I don't know what the big deal is. Like I have lots of
What
cute
was
clothes.
the fashion? Especially, I want to know what the fashion was in 2010 for you guys, but
Oh
also like
gosh.
geographically.
Embarrassing.
Like, I know for Kelsey, we talked a lot about Lily Pulitzer and stuff like that. Like, was that a thing in Florida? Because in Arizona, it was not Lily Pulitzer. Like, that was not the vibe.
No, it was, but only for like types of girls that wound up joining a specific sorority. Like The girls
Okay.
that joined Delta Zeta were Lily Pulitzer girls. And then the girls that joined, frick.
What did DG girls wear? What were you
DG
wearing?
I was wearing like more trendy, fashionable pieces, but still girly. Like a cute high waisted skirt with like a bouncy skirt with like a lacy top, or it was like the time of like the blazers coming back. So like little shorts with the blazer, trying to look professional at 18 years old. It was high waisted denim shorts that were way too short. It was V-necks. The V-neck, like all the T-shirts that we were given, like the recruitment T-shirts were all V-necks, and like
Disgusting.
and
Disgusting.
like tight tank tops, like little tiny printed tank tops.
And now we wear like, I want the highest to my neck
I
coverage,
want the
and I want like,
baggiest piece of fabric you've ever made in your life. Like literally everything was skin tight. But it was like, you know, still like tea party girly. You wanted to be like cute. And then
I think Gen Z would honestly die at our style. I can't wait to like see these
oh
Bama
my
Rush girls and
god.
see what they're wearing because I feel like Gen Z would lose their mind at what we chose to wear in Rush for 2010 versus like 2015. Like that difference,
Oh yeah,
just wild to me.
absolutely. I'm like, and that's how I always go back to like all this anytime I'm like, what were we wearing? Oh, don't you worry. Like we had the platform block wedges that like probably were also blue and also closed toed, but still a wedge. Like so embarrassing.
I love that.
And like lots of peplum. Peplum was huge. Like everybody on like the final day or like the days we had to wear all black, like the peplum dresses were out of control. Like everybody had
Oh my
just like
goodness.
we all looked like we were going to a job interview. Like the sock bun, the big chunky necklace, like the peplum skirts, the
I hope
pumps, like
nobody's dressing like that for a job interview anymore. That's we
no,
have
we're
to hope that
not.
that's done.
No, I
Well,
know.
okay. So you were leading the trends. You were a little fashionista. You knew what you were doing during Rush. When you rushed, were you always dead set DG, or did you feel like you kind of struggled between houses? Did you lose any houses that you thought for sure that you like wanted and like were devastated by it? Because I know that that's a very common experience that I know all of these girls are about to go through is getting dropped from places that they really wanted.
Yeah. Well, like I said, that was also a big difference with UT because it's so small. There's only 4 sororities when I went. I think there's like 8 now. Like it's just there's so few that it's a lot easier to make connections. So like there were girls that would get dropped. The guy that I knew in my circles that I can like hear myself talk all of a sudden. It's weird.
Uh-uh.
Um, there were some girls in like my group that didn't get who they wanted. Like I know that kind of happened. I think I was just literally like on a very direct path the first day after DG. Like I liked Alpha Chi, I liked Delta Zeta, and I liked I cannot think of the last one. It's like such a popular one. Sigma something.
Theta, Sigma Kappa, Alpha Phi, any of those
No.
ringing about?
Yes.
Pi Phi, Kappa Gamma. I could yell them all day. Tridelt.
Oh, STT, Sigma Delta Tau.
I've never heard of that one.
Oh, they're
The
actually pretty
differences
good.
between the differences between West Coast sororities and East Coast sororities astounds me. Like
Oh
Kelsey was
yeah,
also rattling off things, and I was like, "Who? I'd never
yeah.
heard of
Like
it." But anyway, continue.
didn't have anybody that was like like KD or like Tridel. Like we didn't have any of that.
See, Tri-Delt's very
Yeah.
southern, I feel like, though. That's a big one in the South. And the Arizona Tri-Delt was like not a popular like sorority. They got kicked off the last year I was there because they couldn't get enough people to crew. So like it's
That's
funny because then you
always so
talk Tri-Delt
fun.
in the South and it's like Tri-Delt's huge.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Same with like Kappa Delta. Like the Kappa Delta at most Florida schools is really good, and then other schools is they barely have it.
We didn't even
That's
have
always
Kappa
so
Delta.
crazy to me. Yeah, like it's such an interesting thing how regional they are. But yeah, no, like I walked into Delta Gamma, I met some girls right away, and I just felt like they were similar to me in personality, style. Like they were, they were pretty. They were like funny. They were a little more like kind of relaxed. I could tell that they were fun. Like I knew if I joined this, like they're not going to be boring. Like I wasn't. I honestly like wasn't that concerned about partying, but of course you think about partying. Like what kind of what kind of like events and what kind of boys are we going to be like having with each sorority? But I met like I met some girls right away and felt like very comfortable. I was torn pretty much until the last day between my top two, Delta Gamma and Delta Zeta, because those felt the most like me. And I was definitely nervous. Like the mental like strain was there. Like I was confident because it felt good and I knew like I was gonna. But when I decided to pick Delta Gamma, I felt good about that and I felt that I would get it. But you still just don't know because at the end of the day, the girls in the sorority are the ones making the decisions. And so I was definitely nervous, like up until the last moment, because I was just like, I could love them, but if not enough girls sponsor me, then that's it. Um, but
So what's sponsoring? That's not a term that I'm familiar with.
it was kind of when we had it. So the way that they made sure that a lot of girls didn't slip through the cracks is we would be. I'll say it from like by the time I got in. So like when I was on the sorority side of it, when we'd go through recruitment, we would be given the list of girls that were coming, that were wanted to join, and then we would each be responsible for like one or two of them to make sure that we met them. That way, that like
Okay.
nobody gets slipped through the cracks. Like everybody gets to talk to somebody. So it was kind of like a buddy system. Like we would be paired up and like make sure that we find this girl, and then if we like someone, then you like become their sponsor basically, and you are in charge of bringing them to meet all of the older girls to make sure that they meet this girl so that they know like we want her. And the more people that you're brought around to meet, then the more likely it is that you're going to be asked to join.
We definitely, it was similar in the sense that, I mean, obviously I was in such a huge sorority. So like there was like four of us on one girl, but like, and we had like bump mates and like we'd bump each other and like they talk to somebody new. And like then we would all meet after that and like people that were prioritized. We also had like, this sounds so bad, but like we would all go like after each one and we'd have a rating system and we'd go and like we'd have to write down and rate and like write down like what we thought about
Yeah,
them. And then
yeah,
that was returned to like the chapter head so that they could go through that stuff. I think it's just because we were so much larger, we had to have like a different system to doing that.
yeah.
Since we didn't really stand in a group and be like, oh, well, I want to speak on this girl. It wasn't like that. But it definitely like you had the ability to be like, no, 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 we need her. We don't, blah, 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 like that. But interesting. So sponsoring, that's a different term than I've heard. Tell us about on the other side, once you were in the sorority, how did you like that experience doing recruitment?
Like once I was like a sister.
Yes.
I
Hmm.
loved recruitment. Literally, I was recruitment chair my junior year. So I like planned
Okay.
recruitment, and then I was pledge mom. So like I literally was obsessed with it, and I always find myself a lot of times in like teaching roles. So like I was obsessed with it because they were all my little babies, and like I
Well,
got to be their like mom that they came to.
And I want to like reference for everybody else because like I know these things, so it's like important to like kind of add that in because they don't know you. Jordan also was in cheer in high school. She's like the most peppy because Kelsey and I did talk, so people are going to see this difference in this comparison of like Kelsey and I are not very peppy people. Kelsey and I kind of fall on that same personality type. And for us, like we rushed, we were in a sorority, we did all of those things, but recruitment for us was very difficult. And I intentionally went out of the country to avoid having to do recruitment again the next year because it was like one of those things where the screaming, the yelling, it's just not for me. The clapping, the very
Yeah.
cheer, it's very cheer style. And
I'm
that's something
literally
that
gonna
you would excel
cry.
in.
Like, I wish I could do it right now. I fucking love it. Like, I I live for it. I was like, so my two of my best friends I met, like, I remember meeting them at recruitment. It's like Lindsay was already a member, met her, and she was like one of the people that was like, we want this girl. She's a cheerleader, like she's cute, she'll be like fun, all this. And then I met Laura, and like to this day when we're out, like I mean, you guys have the same chant. You're like, chug a beer, chug a beer, chug a beer like a DJ can. Like, I could get rowdy, and I will yell, and I'll have a great time.
See, and that just like, so Kelsey and I did talk about that, how like we got into these sororities, we got there, and then like unlike you held a position, you did all these things. Kelsey and I, we were like, we're here to make our friends. We made our friends. And then we kind of fizzled out of that sorority just because that wasn't necessarily our style. So I think it's like really important to let girls know it's okay. Like, if I don't know, I feel like there was a stigma with it. And maybe you have a different opinion because you were like somebody that was in a leadership role and stuff like that. But I feel like it's totally okay to rush a sorority, make your friends, and then decide it's not for you anymore and completely drop. And if that's what you want to
Yeah,
do, that's fine. If you want to
absolutely.
take that title away, but I feel like a lot of the times I always like, there was a negative connotation when I was there about dropping. So I never dropped. I just like kept going inactive or being out of the country or things like that. Whereas instead, I just didn't want to do it anymore. I was dumping money into the system that I wasn't going to the house for lunches. We were doing our own thing. We lived in an apartment. I made my friends. So I feel like a lot of people, they join a sorority for the core purpose of they're going out of state, they want to make friends, and they feel like they have to stay in it when they don't want to. I feel like there's a really unique distinction that we can make between you and Kelsey to help young girls that's quite literally, you know, Kelsey made her friends. It's fantastic. She's still friends with them till this day. It's okay to step aside. If you are a leadership role person or if you want to put things on your resume or you enjoy the charity aspect, then you should stay in it like Jordan. I think that distinction is important, but I don't think it's a bad thing to join just to make the friends because sometimes I feel like people are just not as involved and it actually drags the sorority down because they're not involved in it.
Right,
Kind
and
of
then
taking that step back.
that's the only time that it gets a little like that. The negative aspect of feeling like maybe this wasn't the right decision for me can get hard is because, like, from my perspective as a leader, like, I held a position every year that I did it. My sorority, like, that part of my life, like, changed who I am as a person. Like, I was not, like, I wasn't shy, I wasn't introverted, but I was not, like, the first one to, like, run for, I didn't do student council in high school. Like, I didn't, like, usually lead roles like that. So joining the sorority and then realizing, like, I want to kind of, like, make decisions for this group and, like, take a leadership position, that was, like a big thing for me. So then when people wouldn't participate or, like, the attitudes weren't there, that would get frustrating for me because I'm like, I'm putting in all this work. And, I don't expect everybody to go, like, 100% all the time for every single event and every charity, everything that we plan. But it was like, okay, well, if you don't want to participate, then just be clear about it. So, like, I definitely agree. Like, if you join one and then you find out that maybe this isn't for me, maybe I made my friends, but, like, the commitment's too much. Maybe it's too much of a financial burden. Like, they're so expensive. And I think that's why a lot of girls also kind of get stuck in them, is because they feel like they've spent all this money to join and to rush and
Yeah.
to, like, be a part of it, that, like, then it'd be a waste to drop. But it's not. If it's going to be a wasted money 4 years later, like, it's just better to be honest with yourself. It's okay that if you can't make the commitment, or if you just decide, like, you know, it doesn't work out for your college experience, it's totally fine. And I'm always for the mentality of, like, just try, because at least you tried, and rather than never having made the effort and never knowing if you would have liked it or not. So I agree.
Totally.
Like, but I think advice, like, it would be like you said, it's okay. It's okay to, like, to drop or to go inactive if you feel like it's too much for you. Like, don't be embarrassed. Don't feel like anybody's gonna judge you. If you already made friends through it, or friends in other chapters, like, then they're gonna be your friends no matter what. So it feels
Exactly.
hard because, you know, college is like the first time that you're off on your own and you want to fit in, but sometimes, like, what everyone else thinks is fitting in is not fitting in for you. And, like, it's
Exactly.
definitely that's the big thing. Like, every school is different. Like, I wouldn't even know, like, how Bama Rush is, like, feels like. It's like 2 weeks. Like, it's so much pressure and a lot of that. So yeah,
What I think a lot for like those big schools is for me personally at Arizona, if I had wanted to drop, I didn't. But if I had wanted to drop, I had already made my friends. I'd still get to go to all the events. I'd still get to do everything like that. Like I was always going to be brought as a plus one. Like I had friends that dropped and we just would bring them as our plus one to dances and stuff like that.
yeah,
But I think where Kelsey really was driving home a point was like, if you weren't in a sorority at Alabama, you didn't do anything. Like you couldn't get into this frat party because this frat party was only with Kappa Gamma and like Fiji and like stuff like that. So like I think it definitely changes the experience based on the school you go at too. But in a whole in itself, if you're wasting money and you don't feel committed to it, there's no amount of parties that are worth that, personally,
no,
in my opinion. And like you'll find other things to do. Like there's tons to do at school. I do want to touch on though, you said something and it made me curious. And I was just like, let's just spark this conversation, which is a little bit not sorority driven. But you said that you never would have been in high school the person to do student counselor or do things like that. Do you feel like it was easier for you to take a woman leadership role in an all women organization instead of trying to do that? Well, I guess you went to an all girls school, but do you feel like the
yeah.
environment of like an inclusive woman space like that was what motivated you to change your mind on that? Because I know, like, personally, you're right. I never would have done like student council in school. And like the boys actually dominated student council at my school. It was not usually a lot of girls. But then when I got to college, I did notice like all of these girls stepping out of their shell and like taking on those leadership roles.
Yeah, I think so. It was the group of girls that I got to call sisters while I was at UT was just so phenomenal, so supportive, so fun, so like, collaborative. Like, I mean, there was drama, there was, you know, regular sorority like bull, but, like, overall, we we did so many, like, fun activities. And, like, you had Greek Sing where we, like, performed, and then you had, like, the charity events, we had sports events, we had so many different types of things that we did, that, like, you got to see a lot of people's different strengths come out. So I think for me, like, being surrounded by a lot of, like, really great women gave me, like, the confidence um, to, like, step up. And, like, when I would have interest and I'd be like, hey, I think I'm running for this, like, the girls would be like, yes, oh my god, do it, like, we would love for you to do that, like, whatever you need help, like. So I felt supported, like, in doing that. And I also felt like people, like, I felt trusted, like, when I would plan things, when I would, like, when I was pledge mom, whether I was VP of recruitment, like, I felt like, because I was in that position, people respected me, like, either way, like. And it didn't, like, that was across the board, like, the girls that took the leadership roles, like, the chapter was so good about being like, these are our leaders, like, listen to them, do what they say, and everyone's gonna, like, benefit from it.
I love that. Do you feel like, so for viewers again, to learn a little bit more about Jordan, Jordan has two sisters and a brother, but that means three girls in your house plus her mom, Kim. So that's four girls in the house. Do you feel like having sisters better prepared you to operate in a space of a lot of women? Because I know for me, it was very overwhelming, only
Yeah.
having a brother, dealing with so much female energy all the time that I do feel like there was a lot of drama sometimes and like a lot of chaos. Like, do you feel like having sisters kind of like, this is a walk in the park for you?
Yeah, for the most part. And I mean, also like high school, all girls for 4 years, kind of already that was already to me a sorority. Like we look back, there were 75 girls in my graduating class. Like we were a sorority in ourselves. So that
Gotcha.
plus having sisters at home, like and then cheer too. Like I was always surrounded by a lot of women, like a lot of girls all the time. So, and I cheered since I was 8, 9 years old. So had a
You've
lot of
always had that
preparation for
community.
dealing with like a lot of female energy, and probably like that's so interesting. I really never thought about it because that has to be so different, like especially for you just having a brother and not
Well, and
having
that's like, I,
any
yeah, I
girls.
just had a brother. I had girlfriends at high school, but I went to a very co-ed high school. I participated in sports medicine, which I was one of four girls. I don't know. I feel like I've actually been in more spheres that are more male energy than I ever was women until I got to college. So for me, that was definitely an adjustment. I changed friend groups quite a bit in the beginning because I could not figure out for myself. And like, this is something I look back on all the time, but I like literally I don't know if I would say I was a bad friend, but I expected so much out of these friendships. And I think that like TV had a lot to do with that, my own
Mm-hmm.
experiences in high school, but I expected like more loyalty, more this, more that. And like I wasn't getting those things. And I was getting so easily irritated with others when like the world wasn't revolving around me and I shouldn't have been acting that way. But like I would get so frustrated. I would leave a friend group. I would join another. I'd feel established. And then the same thing would happen and I'd leave again. And I feel like I left this trail of like these friend groups where it made me look like the bad guy all the time because I did not know how to properly like navigate that kind of drama because it wasn't something I was accustomed to. And I think what I struggled with the most is like, there's like a level of, and it's sad that like girls are like this, but especially in those late teens, early 20 years, I feel like we've evolved past it now. Like, but I feel like in those early years, I really didn't understand the whole concept of like smiling and like just talk about it with somebody else, get it out of your system. But like that passive aggressiveness that females have, I just didn't, for me, I'm just aggressive. So passive aggressive wasn't in my nature. And I know it upset a lot of people because I just was
Yeah.
trying to find that balance of being my true authentic self, but also like not triggering people because everybody when
Yeah.
they're 19 is so triggered. Like,
Oh
and
my god.
I
Well,
feel like that's the hormones.
yeah.
Hormones.
Yes, it is, and that's why like college is literally one of the most wild things. Like sending all of these fresh adults, like straight out of wherever, whatever little tiny bubble that they came from, and throwing them into this ginormous pot of people who are just like, you're so overstimulated. Like you're so there is just that's it's like so much, but it's so
Well, and let's
important.
make
Like
this
it's
clear.
the
They are
best,
not
most
adults.
intense time. No, they're not. I will never
They're
understand
not
how
adults.
we like 18. I don't feel like an adult now. I am 31. Like I
I
don't think
know. No.
I'm legally an adult, but I feel like I'll be an adult when I'm 40.
I didn't start like I feel like an adult, I will say, but I didn't start feeling like an adult until I was financially responsible for myself. And I was very fortunate in my life that I did not have to take care of myself in college. A lot of my friends did. A lot of them took out loans. A lot of them had jobs. I was raised by parents that school was my job, and that's what I needed to be doing. I worked in the summers, but when I was at school, school was my job. And I'm very fortunate for that
It's so
experience,
great.
but that makes me the most unadult college kid that you can possibly be. I'm getting fed money. I like drink every night of the week. I might or might not go to class because I also went to college in that generation where like they would put shit online so I didn't have to go if I didn't want
yeah.
to. It was a very, like, I feel like I was at that very cusp where everything started transitioning online, but it wasn't there yet. Whereas, like, if you had just like been there a year earlier, or even more my freshman year, it was like you had to go to class or you wouldn't have the notes, or you needed somebody you knew to like give you the notes. So like you're not skipping class because you need what you need for that test, or like
Right.
there was teachers at the end of class that they'd like give a code word and you'd have to use that the next class for your attendance. Like there were things that we had to do freshman year. By the time sophomore year rolled around for me, I don't think I went to class the majority of the time because it all got put online. So I feel like there's just no responsibility when you're in college and being taken care of like that. Um, the partying is just out of control, and sororities do contribute to that. Like, I was having a lot of fun. I was with the girls, I was doing what I wanted. We had parties all the time, we had date dashes, all of that kind of fun stuff. So it's just like to even consider ourselves adults at that point is just a giant joke. And I don't feel like I was financially supporting myself by 21, but even then, I don't feel like it really hit me until like I had to pay like my health insurance and other bills that like
Say like
you don't
25
have to
is
pay right away.
a little more like
It just
real life.
like crap.
Because
Like if I don't hit this bill, like I'm screwed. Like
right. Like
credit card debt.
UT was a little different though. Like I had to be. It was because it was small. Like also, I do have like 5-6 years on you, so like we did not have online. Like nothing was online. Like if you wanted online was like the portal that we used to check our grades. That's it. Like there was no online anything. Like you had to go to class. Attendance would be taken. Like there were some teachers that didn't care, but if you missed like more than 5 classes, like you failed. And like you definitely were you had to because the classes were smaller, so the teachers would notice. Like if I missed my English class, like even English, there were still only 30 of us. So like if I didn't go, the teacher knew I wasn't there. And if I didn't go, then I didn't get the material. Like I still had teachers in college using handwritten projector notes.
Projectors.
Like
I feel like that was a thing for me as well though too, is that in the beginning when you're in big lectures and you're in your gen eds, very easy to skip. But once you got to that point where you're getting into your major and it's like 50 people in a class, they are going to notice. There are 20 people in a class, they're going to notice. So that definitely was a big difference for me as well. I will say, I think college kids these days have it easy because those teachers now officially, like they're teaching hybrid classes. You don't have to go to class. You can literally just be at home.
Doesn't go to class. She's fully online. Like, and even then, she doesn't even have to go to the class. Like they'll put the whole lecture online. And it's like
I'm jealous.
It does a disservice to the learning aspect of it, but I remember
I think it also
like,
downgrades the experience.
Yeah, exactly. And there was
There's
definitely
nothing like rolling up. Well, there's nothing like rolling up to class hungover with your 3 best friends in the same t-shirt and like having to get through the lecture. You're losing out on an experience. So I guess our tip here in all of this and our giant lecture that we just gave Gen Z, go to class.
Go to class. Learn something because you're paying for it. There was definitely girls in my sorority that did not go to class. Like they would party. Like every sorority has a group that's just like relentless partiers. Like there were girls that went out 5-6 nights a week, and if they weren't going out, like they probably bartended somewhere, and they were just perpetually out. And like sometimes I look back and I'm like, how did you graduate? Like did you go to school? I don't think
those
so.
people can pull it off. It's kind of like those are the people that are still like that's like the person that can still go out and get like completely obliterated on a night out and then wake up and be like, what are we doing for brunch? And then I look at them and I'm like, I'm old. I can't go to brunch. Yeah, no. We're one night a week. It's how, so Jordan was just in town for my bridal shower and we went out the night before the bridal shower. None of us were okay the next day. Like we got through the bridal shower and then everybody fell asleep in my living room. Like everybody slept in the living room. We were not functioning. I didn't function for 3 days after that.
Emmy was just here, and like we only went out. We went out to like a late dinner Friday. We went out on Sunday night because we tried to go Friday, and then just like we're like, now let's go home. I need like a week to recover. She was here for 4 days.
It's
like
just
I'm so tired from like, and we didn't
the
even do that
headaches,
much.
the
but
tired, the
also,
nausea, all of
we were
it.
out like just doing things, and I'm like, I do look back, and I'm like, how? Like, but that's the type of thing you could do it at 18. You could join your sorority, go to class, stay out until 3 in the morning, go to your 8 a.m. lecture, eat shit for 4 years from the cafeteria,
I
and
eat ramen
still
noodles every
be
day.
the skinniest you've ever been in your whole life. It
I
is a
blame, actually, I have a theory, and it's going to upset anybody that's in the medical field or doctors. I genuinely believe that we were drinking so much that we forgot to eat. And even if we did eat, we were still drinking so much that we were just throwing it up. So we were automatically like anorexic and bulimic through all of college, not intentionally, just by drinking alcohol. Also,
yeah.
the fact that like I was like never sick and I should have been. The alcohol was killing all of the bacteria in my body. I quite literally, I have a friend, Abby, shout out if you're listening to this. Abby had strep once and we were like, stay home. And she's like, no, it's okay. Like, I'll just have a couple drinks because the bacteria will be killed if I have alcohol. She went out with strep. She had her own personal bottle, plastic handle of vodka, was just chugging out of the vodka on her strep medication. And guess what? She was fine. And her strep was gone like 2 days later.
Oh yeah.
So I think alcohol kills all illnesses. And I think we were all just anorexic and bulimic without knowing it. And that's why we were all so skinny. And sometimes I think about bringing that diet back. But that diet now at this age leads to depression. And I can't afford depression
And
medication.
liver
So,
liver
and
failure.
liver failure.
I don't want to. I don't know. I hate to break it to you, but liver failure would probably happen first at this point for us.
Every time I'm hungover, though, all I can think of is like, well, if I just kept drinking, I wouldn't be hungover. But that is like also perpetuating that I'd just be drunk 365 days a year.
It's so true. The hair of the dog,
And
man.
that's called alcoholism. And when you're in college, it's totally acceptable.
Oh
But
yeah,
when you're not, it's not okay.
no. You are automatically an alcoholic in college for the most part. I mean, follow your bliss, people. But that's the thing.
You
though,
don't even call it alcoholism because it's not. At that point, it's just not alcoholism.
Yeah,
It is once you're past college.
It's such an interesting thing. I'm interested to see like this generation of Gen Z going to college now. Like, I do feel like a lot of younger kids are kind of staying away from like alcohol and drugs more so. Like, of course, people still are drinking, but it doesn't seem to be as wild as when we were younger. Like,
I feel like, hold
so
though,
drunk
because I feel like
that like by the
every
time they get to
generation
college,
says that though.
that's
Every
true.
generation says that though. If you ask people in our parents' generation, oh, you guys never partied like we did. If you ask us, we tell all the younger ones, oh, you never partied like we did. I'm sure they're going to say, I feel like that's something we all say, first off. And second, I think it just shifts. I think the partying shifts, especially with COVID. But I do think that you're right. I think there's less alcohol consumption. But what I do think they're doing a lot more of is I think that they smoke a lot more weed. They're obsessed with their vapes. Everybody's got a goddamn puff pen. And I'm like, what even are those? Like, the addiction to that, like what we're seeing with Gen Z on the puff pens and the vapes, they're having to like, just like back in the 80s, the 70s, when they started putting the cigarette warnings on packages and like had to have those like gruesome, like somebody's throat torn out on the packaging. They're starting to have to do that with Gen Zers in the vapes because like they're addicted. So I think that it's just shifted. Like it's a different kind of partying. Now they all want to sit there, talk about existential crisis and get high. Which I was not doing. I didn't want to talk about existential crisis. Also, these poor fuckers have to deal with how expensive everything's going to be when they graduate, how essentially they'll probably never find a job, and the fact that there's aliens now. So clearly, Gen Z's just fucked. Like,
I understand. Like, every now and then, I understand why my sister says the things she says. Like, sometimes, very rarely, but sometimes when something comes out of her mouth that's just so conspiracy, I'm like, I mean, yeah, you were brought up in a world where everything that we were taught is a fucking lie. And everything that you
So
think you're supposed to do for your future, like, it's just not going to happen the same way anymore.
tell the group exactly how far you and Emmy are apart.
We're 11 years. 10 years.
Yeah,
Like,
so
10 whole years. She
that'll
turns
do it.
21 in like 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
And Emmy took a gap year first, correct?
No, she did like just a gap semester. Like, she just took she didn't start in the fall. She started in the spring. Um, and
A
then
lot of people are doing
transferred.
that post-COVID. Well, a lot of
Yeah.
people post-COVID did that because they didn't want to start their freshman year of college being remote. So like a lot of
Oh,
people are
yeah.
like, well, we'll just wait until second semester.
Yeah.
I know even my young cousin, she just graduated. She's taking a full gap year. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure she's going to use that gap year to convince her mom that she doesn't need to go to college because she doesn't seem like she
College.
wants to do college. But like right now
Exactly.
it's the gap year. So it's just funny how we're seeing more and more people are like, no, screw that. I'm not going to school.
Yeah, well, and I think so. I thought of the other show that like got me into Greek life was the show called Greek. I don't remember what it was on.
Yeah,
I think like probably ABC Family or something. And
I
like
remember
that
it
was
though.
just
Yeah.
such a perfect example of what college was in the like earlier 2000s, mid 2000s, like 2010s. It was like that's why we went to college. We got to be on our own. We got to party. We got to drink. We got to join Greek life, and we got to be on our own. Now these kids today are like, I don't really give a shit about any of that. Like they don't see any value in like that experience, which is fine because I definitely agree that like the college industry is a problem and like money and all that, that's like a story for a different day, but like there these kids like know like if I want to do some certain job with my life, like going to college is not going to get me there. And
Yeah.
on top of that, I don't see the lure in like all the other stuff. Whereas I was like, I'm going to college. I'm gonna be in a sorority because like that's what's cool. And
We
like
had
I want to be.
girly sorority movies. We had girly sorority movies, and the boys had Blue Mountain State. And they
Yeah,
were just, they wanted to be in a fraternity. And
yeah.
it's so funny because those shows are now so inaccurate. But to get back on the track before we like close up on Greek life, I do want you to talk about what hazing was like when you were there. Was it something socially acceptable? Was it happening a lot? Was it mainly with the boys, or was it something that happened within your guys' sorority as well?
So it was there was like a shift happening at UT my freshman year when I joined because of something that happened. I don't remember the story in detail, but there was an issue with a girl at a party the year before that got, so drunk she had to be taken to the hospital. Turns out it was like a sink or swim situation where they just were drinking way too much and like pushing her to drink. So the school was already cracking down on hazing. Um, while I was there, there was a big issue with one of the fraternities, and they got kicked off campus because they were hazing.
Okay.
Um, it was more so that it was like the typical type of hazing, like pulling kids out of their bedrooms at 2 a.m. and blindfolding them and making them do dumb stuff. Like there wasn't
It wasn't
anything like
harmful yet.
it wasn't harmful. Nobody was hurting anybody like physically or like abusively. Um, the boys were boys and they were doing like the dumb shit, but it was more so like the way that it was that everybody was doing it in the frat. Like there was a little more for like the pledges, but they were all participating. So it didn't
Okay.
seem as pointed, but there was some issues while we were there, and we had to be very careful. like anytime there were like frat parties, like we had to make sure that like if our younger girls, if our pledges or our girls went that weren't sisters yet, they weren't initiated yet, were there, like we had to make sure that we like somebody left with them and we didn't leave them behind, like they didn't get into any kind of issue, because the school was like watching us like a hawk, like just everybody in Greek life. So any little thing, they were going to flag it. There was like a couple of seminars while we were there, like somebody would come once a year to talk about hazing in the chapters, and it was like a requirement by the school. Just
Okay.
like almost like a sexual harassment thing. Like once a year they come, they talk about hazing, they talk about the dangers of it, and like open line of, hey, if something's happening to you, like don't be afraid to say anything. We obviously did not have issues. We were like showering our girls with gifts and painted wine glasses and t-shirts, and literally like everything was just like we just gifted them. We loved them. I know the boys,
I
the
do feel
class
like
has a little bit more
female
issues.
I do feel like female hazing versus male hazing is definitely a different story. I feel like the max that I saw of hazing when I was back in school and what I still feel like we hear today is like making girls get on their knees and drink, like being goofy and
Mm-hmm.
silly, and it's bossy. But like I know that like most women, like if we see another woman hurting, we're not going to continue that hazing. I know there's the exception, but like for women, we're not going to sit there and like, oh my god, she's choking on that vodka, I'm gonna make her keep drinking it. Like that's just not
Yeah.
something we as women did. Whereas I feel like in the male population, what we were seeing in fraternities was this uptick in like really aggressive behavior coming from men that were actually aggressive and not being brotherly. I feel like women got into sororities for a completely different reason than men got into fraternities sometimes, and I
Yeah.
think that that just shows that sometimes maybe there's a difference in quality.
Yes. Yeah, and the just the notion of it, like boys have this notion that they're going to be hazed, because it's also a like a tradition in like sports. Like when you are a freshman joining the sports team, like you're a rookie, you're gonna be like treated a certain way. But I I didn't luckily didn't have any big issues, didn't have like any major problems, but we had to be careful, because if it felt like it could be taken the wrong way, then it was like the perception that it could potentially become a hazing issue, and we were not going to risk losing our chapter over anything stupid. Like
Yeah.
that's the thing, is like at the end of the day, the school has the power to shut you down. And if like it could be something that like it wasn't intentionally meant to really hurt somebody, but you knew they could, or you knew it was embarrassing, or you knew they could say something about it, like you're just gonna blow up the whole operation. Like you're gonna lose your chapter, and like
Yeah.
it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. And like I that was, when we were there, we didn't have, like you said, no Instagram. Like you couldn't take to TikTok to like make a video about it. So like
Yeah.
now I'm sure it's even like harder to get
Well,
away
do you
with it,
feel
because
like
people will video
Well,
it.
do you feel like that it's now become one of those situations where we now have social justice warriors where they see the slightest thing going wrong, or maybe even it's taken out of context, and people just immediately take to TikTok? And do you think that
Oh
causes
yeah.
a problem for these fraternities, sororities, but also just college students in general, kind of interfering with their education and or interfering with social lives?
Yeah, I think so. I like people love to be a warrior. People love to be a justice like soapbox speaker. But I don't know. I think there's so much information on the internet, and like especially with TikTok, that like the way that we consume it even is different than these kids consume it. Like
Yeah.
we listen more. they they're just fully scrolling, like, and if something sparks their attention, they might watch it for like an extra 5 seconds. So I don't
Gotcha.
know that it specifically makes anything harder, but it definitely adds to like the awareness that, like, if you do something dumb like that, people are gonna know and people will probably come for you.
Well, and that's kind of, I was having this conversation today with a younger little mentee of mine, and we were just talking about like what you put on social media, what you post. Like, I feel like the Gen Z generation is very body positive, all of these things, which are really great, or like they're all really open to just being transparently themselves online. And I did have to like do that mother bear thing where I like reminded her the internet's forever. And like, although you might be being positive or you might be being goofy or funny or just showing you as yourself at 22 is not going to be who you are at 28. And that's going to shift. It's going to shift for you. And the internet does live forever. It's going to be here when our kids are here. It's going to be here when our grandkids are here. So, like, what are you putting on there? And are you, like, if it would embarrass you 10 years down the line, are you sure you want to do it? And if you can still say yes, then go for it. But I just feel like that's a big takeaway and note. And I talked about this with Kelsey too, as you're beginning to rush, and all of you young girls out there that are watching this, going down and doing your recruitment stuff, they're watching your social media and they are using that as a tool to decide whether or not if you're a good fit for them. So what you're putting out there actually makes a difference. So I think it's important. But I know we're like running low on time. I did want to ask you if you have any short, cute, funny stories you'd want to share about your sorority. If not, or like a fun thing that you guys did when you were friends. It could be as goofy, traumatic, drunk story, whatever you want. If you have one, awesome. If not, no worries. We can just kind of close out from here.
I mean, I probably have so many, but the one that's coming to my mind, which is just like, it cracks me up, is my bid night when I like finally was like invited into Delta Gamma. We, like I said, we didn't have houses, so like the people just like clumped in different houses around Tampa. So we went to one of the houses that was like a frat house with a bunch of the boys. This is the first party of my college experience in a sorority. And I do like a lot of these girls, and at this point, like, it's mostly the juniors and seniors that really are, like, taking you and, like, wanting you to meet people. And we were all in our pink V-necks, pink Delta Gamma V-necks, and our little denim shorts. And we're all just like, where are we going? Piling into cabs. We go to this party. And I remember this so vividly. I watched what in my brain is a grown man, because he was probably like 21 and I was a little 18-year-old. This man is like a grown man. I watch him get a cooler, put it on the countertop. He turns the faucet, turns the sink on. He takes a 2-liter of Sprite, a giant thing of Hawaiian Punch, and he's just doing this. Then he grabs 2 bottles of Pop-Off, fucking nasty, like, Everclear vodka, dumps those, dumps a powdered thing of Gatorade, like powdered Gatorade, and just mixing a vat of Hunch Punch. And the water.
Okay, so you call it Hunch Punch.
Hunch Punch.
You call it Hunch Punch. We call it Jungle Juice.
Jungle Juice.
Same difference. You described my, yeah. Same thing.
That one, you could have said either, like, Jungle Juice, Hunch Punch. And I was just sitting there like, you're supposed to drink that? The best part is that it's delicious. But it's a vat. And then we're like, I'm getting drunk and I'm like, I don't want to get in trouble. Also, important to note, because I went to UT, my parents live 5 minutes away. I lived at home my first semester. So that was a little weird. So, but like, I had to go home at the end of the night. I didn't go back to campus. And we're like having a good time. And I'm like, okay, maybe we're about to leave. Knock, knock, knock. Cops at the door. I'm like, oh my God, my first party. What am I doing? Like, I'm getting arrested. Like, God. And they like, literally, it's like this happens. So they shuffle us all outside. We line around the pool. We're sitting just with our little feet by the pool, just quiet for about 10 minutes. And the boys come out and they're like, all good. Fucking music comes back on. And I go back inside and like, people are writing on the walls of this house. Like, there were people hiding in all the bedrooms. And I'm like, what have I gotten myself into? And it was the best 4 years.
I don't know how you lived at home your first semester of college. My first semester of college was my most unhinged behavior.
Oh yeah, I was a
wow.
little less unhinged because of it, and I had a boyfriend, which was dumb, but like, yeah, I don't know how.
So
Awful,
your
awful.
tips basically from this episode then are for sure rush, even if you're going to drop. Don't have a boyfriend when you
Don't go to
rush
college with a boy
or when
unless
you go
he's
to
like,
college in
I don't
general.
know, like I think it's sweet when people like are it's like the love of your life, great. But like if you have a boyfriend that you're like not sure about, you do not need to take him to college with you. Don't. But
I
Rush,
don't believe in very many
it's
high
so
school
great.
romances.
Recruitment is great. Joining a sorority was great. It's one of the best things I've ever done. I love those people. Like I talk to a lot of them, and then like I have a core group that are like my closest friends. Um, and you can
So
find
would you
all
do
of
it
my
all over again?
experience on little albums on Facebook from my little point and shoot cameras that we would just go home and directly upload every single photo without editing them and just put them all on albums. And yes,
So
10
you
out
would
of 10.
definitely do it all over again
I would
then.
do it all over again. I wish I could do it all over again. I do. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's the closing out on sorority and Bama Rush stuff.
That is
I
a
feel
wrap.
like I've gotten now some very unique perspectives, some like varying, some the same. Um, I'm excited to transition into more of like the education system and their lack of understanding of the health system, things like that in my next episode. But this was like fun, eye-opening. I hope that whoever finds these podcast episodes, or if you're watching on YouTube, if you are rushing this fall, congratulations. I hope it is everything that you're expecting. If you're preparing to rush in the next coming years, this is just your reminder to get so excited for what you're going to be doing. And thank you, Jordan, for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. If you join Delta Gamma, let a sister know.
Reach out to her on Instagram. I will make sure.
Yeah.
There's her chance. I will make
Yep.
sure to have her Instagram handle in the bio, so you're more than welcome to go connect with her, follow her, ask her any sorority questions you may have. But
Yeah.
otherwise, thank you guys so much. And next week, bye.
Bye.